Hi and welcome to my first cooking video. I'm Nadine from French Girl Gaming on Twitch TV. Today I'm going to cook beef stroganoff, my version of it, not necessarily the official version of it, but I hope you like it nonetheless. Now if you've seen me on stream, you know I spend quite a few hours online, so cooking is something that I'll plan ahead, so things cook slowly, usually on a slow cooker, and I don't have to worry about things on the stove. Now, beef stroganoff, if you don't have a slow cooker, it's okay, you can do it on the stove top, but if you do that, I'll suggest you come and check up on it when it's cooking every 30 minutes or so, because the difference is on the slow cooker with the seal on the lid, you don't lose the moisture, so you can let it slow cook for several hours. On the stove, on the other hand, even on low heat and the lid on, there's going to be moisture loss, and you could actually burn your dinner. You don't want to do that. So ingredients I'm using: olive oil, a chopped onion, just a simple brown onion about this size that I just peeled and chopped in little pieces, lean beef, mushrooms. I usually buy mushrooms about this size. They're not very big, they're about this size. I cut them in four. I washed, of course, wash and pat dry them with paper towel. You have to remember mushrooms are like sponges, so you don't want to soak them at all in water. They are going to shrink and they are going to releasing moisture when they're cooking as well, so factor that in too. I like to put a bit of Worcestershire sauce in my beef stroganoff. I use then beef stock, salt, pepper, and then later on when we finished, after the slow cooking has been done and it's cooked thoroughly, we'll thicken the sauce with some corn flour, and then just before serving we'll put yogurt. I put yogurt instead of cream. This is the difference, I think, with the traditional recipes. From a beef perspective, I'm using this case is pre-cut. It's just lean beef cut into strips. You can buy steaks and just cut it yourself. It doesn't have to be pre-cut. Just pick up the cut of meat that you like, but it's best if it's in strips rather than pieces. Okay, so we're going to get started. I'll just put a little bit of olive oil in here. This has already been heating up, so it's actually set on the sear option, so the idea is basically to sear the meat, seal it, and then we'll add the onion and then the rest of the ingredients. So, yeah, it's good enough. Now, if you know my partner Cal Tiffy Mike is also another streamer, you know that he has a relatively good appetite, let's put it that way, so I have a lot of meat. I actually bought 2 packs of meat, so in total I'm actually cooking here about 1 kilo of meat. Hopefully there might be some leftovers. This is one good thing I like about the beef stroganoff. You can actually freeze it, so it's worth making a reasonably large quantity and then freeze it, or you can keep it in the fridge and eat it within a few days. It'll hold pretty well too. Try to separate all the pieces as best as I can. Make sure everything cooks. The idea is to basically seal the meat so we keep the moisture inside it. Okay. Alright, so it looks like the meat is basically seared now, so I'm going to start fishing it out. there's quite a lot of juice and I guess water at the bottom of the pot here, so, and I don't want to throw that away, definitively not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip the liquid into this dish. Oh, that's hot. Use my gloves. Down. It's great to wear glasses. You get steamed up on a regular basis in the kitchen. Okay, so that's my meat there, ready to go. I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil here. Give it a minute to heat up, and then we're going to chuck in the onions. We're going to get those onions softened and brown a little bit, not too much. Okay, I think this is looking, that's basically the color we're looking at. So it's a little bit golden, and because of the juices from the meat that were at the bottom and a little scraps of meat, is actually coloring the onions a little bit, so you don't need to go any further than that. So that's basically the color that you want to achieve. So I'm going to put the meat back in there. Careful because this is quite hot still. Okay. Back. There we go. All in. Okay. I can go in the sink. So now we have the meat back in the pot, the onions, and I'm going to start seasoning. Now, seasoning wise, I like to put some Worcestershire sauce. It's a favorite of mine. It's probably my taste, but I'm quite recommending, give it a shot. Worcestershire is made of vinegar and molasses, and it's got this little caramel, little bitey flavor to it. So I like to put a nice dash of it. I'm not actually quite shy about it. I'll actually put quite a bit of it too. I'll put some pepper. Give this a stir. And then we're going to put the stock, beef stock. Now, I don't particularly endorse any specific brands of stock, but I do like, usually aim for low salt ones, because otherwise I find this too salty. I'd rather add salt myself afterwards than relying on too much on salty stock. So this one hopefully tastes nice. I haven't tried it yet, in fact. I might give it a taste, that way I'll know what I'm dealing with. Oops. Yeah, it's actually not too bad. It's not too salty, so I'm going to put that in here. The quantity of stock I put is basically enough to cover the meat. That's the rule of thumb, is to put enough to cover the meat. It doesn't have to be totally underneath it, but like it's got to be pretty close to. So effectively, the top pieces of meat that barely at the surface. One day I'll have a better setup, I'll have a camera that looks down the pot and you'll be able to see, but effectively the meat is just right underneath the surface. Some is a little bit sticking out, but not too much, and that's basically it. And I'm going to throw in the mushrooms. because bear in mind the mushroom is going to release some moisture as well, so it's going to raise the volume as well. So I've got quite a bit of mushrooms here. They are going to shrink, so give it a little stir. I'm not too worried about getting the seasoning right at this point in time, because we'll tweak that later on once it's had time to cook, and we'll reduce it a little bit and all that. So I'm not too worried about getting the taste right. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the lid down, and I'm going to change the program. I'm going to go to slow cook mode. I'm going to go casserole, and I'll set it on, let's have a look, on high. It's going to go for like 4 hours, so it's perfect. It's going to be right ready for dinner time. And start. Off we go. Now we can go and play video games. I'm going to do my dailies in game, and this puppy is going to cook. Talk to you later. Welcome back. So our stroganoff here has been simmering for about good 4 hours, slow cooking for 4 hours. So what it looks like now is still a lot of gravy, a lot of juice, and the meat is very tender. It just falls into pieces. It's very hot. Mushrooms are cooked, of course. Everything is all, but it's obviously very liquid. So the next step I'm going to do now is thicken that gravy with corn flour, and because after that I'm going to use yogurt instead of cream as well, and the yogurt is going to liquefy the whole mixture again. I tend to mix it with quite a fair bit of corn flour to make it quite thick. So I'm going to put, there's quite a lot of sauce in there, it's quite a lot of meat too, so I'm not going to be too shy about it. I'm going to go quite a bit and mix that with some filtered water. And I'm just going to do a thick paste. And put a little bit more. I wouldn't have too much and not put all of it, or even have to add a bit more stock than have something that's too liquid, because it's really not going to be too nice if it's too liquid. So here is all corn flour, nicely mixed, and I'm going to pour that down in here. Just let that get out of the way. And this is going to turn basically the sauce into something nice and thick, like a nice and thick gravy. Okay. Alright, I'm going to let that still keep warm and thicken a little bit while the rice is cooking. For the rice, I'm using the absorption method. So it's depending on the brand, it's usually 1 cup of rice to about 1.5 cups of water. You bring the water to boil, you put the rice in there, cover it, simmer it at low heat for about 15 minutes, and then it's ready. So that's cooking over there. So we're back in a few when the rice is ready. The rice is pretty much cooked. I got this as basically thickened nicely. So we're talking about this kind of thickness here. So it's a nice thick gravy. And what I'm going to do now is add plain yogurt, and the type of yogurt I use is non-set yogurt. If you use a set yogurt, the problem is it's going to go all lumpy in your gravy. It's not going to look nice. So I use basically plain yogurt that's a bit creamy effectively, the way it looks. And I'm quite generous with it. I'm going to go good 2 or 3 tablespoons, because there's quite a lot of stuff in there. Let's stir, see what it looks like. And at this point it doesn't really need to boil, it just really want to make sure we keep the temperature right, because this got straight from the fridge. But I like it better with yogurt than with cream. I know that's not the traditional recipe, but I like it that way. The other thing that I am going to add now is also the paprika. I've tried with putting paprika at the beginning when I'm cooking, before the slow cooking time, and putting it afterwards, and I never found it makes a difference really. If anything, putting towards the end, probably it holds on the flavor more. Okay, that's the timer telling me the rice is ready. So from a consistency, I'm quite happy with the way it is now. What I'm going to do is just make a bit more. Okay. I don't want to be stirring this too much. I don't want to turn the meat into tiny pieces. Okay. So yeah, now from a consistency, we're looking at, it's still thick, but not too thick. And I'm going to give it a taste to make sure the seasoning is right. Now you can have beef stroganoff with mashed potato, works pretty good, or pasta as well. I tend to like it with something that can absorb the moisture as well, that works well. So rice and mashed potatoes probably the main favorite ones. Okay, and now I'm ready to serve this. Okay, and there you have it, beef stroganoff. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you're certainly going to try to cook it yourself as well. Love to get your feedback. I know this is my first video, so it's probably not very good, and I'll equip myself better as well eventually with a better microphone in the kitchen and all that jazz one day. But certainly planning to do a few more of those, and love sharing my cooking stuff and letting you know how we eat and what we eat when we're playing video games so much. And yeah, thanks for watching, and hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Bye.